When we first bought the farm, New Tecumseh, I think when we opened it up with the indigenous ideas, maybe some of the people handle this. I like to walk the fields, and I found 2 Indian stones, whether they're Mississauga or Jibbay, who knows. You'll find them rather interesting. I think this is a skinning knife. It's got a natural feel to it. This is a very crude stone, but can you imagine the length of time it took for somebody to work this to the edge, to the shape, to what, and to find them in the fields, I found it interesting. Right? I haven't walked the fields lately. This is probably when we first moved up there 40 years ago when I found them, and they were probably 2 or 3 years apart. But I never found anything else. There wasn't any arrows or any, looked like any settlements or anything. How they ever got there, who knows. But they're 2 interesting pieces. The other thing that I have here is auction sale. Long time ago, this leather wallet caught my fancy. And being a car buff, it's got the Cormorant Packard emblem on it. Inside it says in it, presented to Master Salesman, Mr. G.R. McAllister by Packard Motor Car Company, Detroit, in appreciation of his sales accomplishment during the years 28 to 29. So he probably sold a big gaggle of Packards. When I got the wallet home, it was buried in the wallet, the most beautiful letter, and somebody alluded to it here in that book there, the penmanship and the writing. This letter was written by Mr. Oh, I thought I had it all prepared. It doesn't really matter. It obviously handwritten in 1896. He was wintered in Leadville, Colorado. He was a miner prospector, and he wrote this letter to a friend of his and referred to his aunt, who was a McAllister. So the wallet ties in with the letter, and it's both the wording, the penmanship is something else. And you know, it's had a bit of too much light on it. It's hard to read, but it makes. To find that in the wallet after I bought the wallet, I only paid $3 for the wallet, and then find that letter in it was rather interesting. Now, the other thing that I have there is that today there's a big controversy, electric cars versus gasoline cars. I have some old natural literature here that compares driving a horse and buggy to a car, which would be the cheaper. Of course, the Maxwell is far cheaper than the horse and buggy. But I found it also interesting. A lot of people don't realize that in 1909 and those eras in North America, we still drove on the right-hand side, the same as England. It was Henry Ford with his Model T. Henry was a horse lover, and the horse driver always sat on the left side. So Henry Ford, Model T, put the steering wheel on the left side. They built 15 million Model Ts. 1.70% of all the cars in the U.S. were Model Ts, left-hand drive, so everybody followed suit. So that's why in North America we drove on the left side. But these are comparing the price of the car versus a horse and buggy. And tires were probably the most expensive item on a car back then because it was all natural rubber till Goodyear came along. Now, the other interesting booklet that I found there was that in 1956, so we've gone from prehistoric, we're up to 56 now. When you bought a new Ford in 56, you had the option of getting seat belts with it. It was the first mass-produced car in North America that had seat belts. But with the seat belts came an instruction manual how to use seat belts. Can you imagine today getting an automobile, getting instructions how to use seat belts? I found that an interesting piece of literature. The evening is getting late. Thank you.
All right.
We'll
see if you can do it.
Okay, I'll do my best to throw my voice to Ron there. Yes, this is a really interesting piece of history, but it's more recent. And it's done by one of the members in our room, who is a very creative person. He uses found objects around his home to make really interesting things, and his name is Francis Schwanden. And I'm not exactly sure how I acquired this, but to me it's quite a remarkable piece of history, and I think graphically it's stunning. That blue is just so lively, and Franz has made it out of, I think, some kind of old wood, and he's used a chain, and I'll read it to you. I'll read the history. It's really neat. 1991, Simcoe County was reorganized, and in brackets, amalgamation. Tecumseh, Alliston, Beaton, and Tottenham became the town of New Tecumseh. Most of West Gwillimbury and the hamlets along the town line, Highway 27, became the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury. The Tecumseh and West Gwillimbury Historical Society kept its historical name. The silver chain outlines the new towns. So I think this is a really special. And later I'm going to ask Franz what the little boxes are for. The little yellow boxes here. And this is a bit of a segue. Now some of you maybe know about this already. And Bruce showed you one of the items, the pipe tongs. Now at the Bradford Public Library, there's a very special display, and there's a showcase before you go into the library, and it's filled with David's Watsits. And there's 42 of them, and the idea is for you to try to figure out what the Watsits are. So on the back of the display case, they're numbered, each one, and it gives you a clue. So we're hoping that people will enjoy going to the library. This will be over the end of the month. You can find it online. Just go to the Bradford Public Library and just put in display case or exhibition or Watson. Yeah, I was going to say something else, but I forgot what that was.
And you fill it in as to what?
Yeah, there's a box with pencil and paper, and you can fill in what you think the various items are, or you can go online and do it that way. And there will be a prize. But I think you'd have fun doing it. And you'll know one of the things is a pipe tong. And you would be amazed there's more than one pipe tong. The style was different. There's one in particular, it looks like an accordion. And do enjoy and do go.
Thanks, Jim. Is this yours, Franz?
Before I start with that, recently somebody asked me why I wear a glove. It's just that I have to hang out at home. I have lots of them, so I wear them. I also have some nerve damage. And another option would be to stick my hand into a bucket of water. This is more manageable. Okay. Before I go on with that, I'm going to talk about Newton Robinson, but we heard about Tottenham, and I have a little booklet at home, sort of a brochure of selling stuff. It was made by a company that was Rogers Clifford. Does that mean anything to you? Adi Roger? Well, he was a developer. I did a little booklet. And I think somebody who appreciates Tottenham and knows stuff about it should have it. So I'll make sure you come to the next meeting. I'll bring it. Okay. This actual thing is a quilt or a stitchery. Ernest Crayford, Chandler, 1895, 1952. It was done by a woman in Toronto. She signed up for stitchery instruction and decided that, okay, I'm going to do something. Maybe I'm going to do the village where my grandfather used to hang out or was living. So she decided on Newton Robinson. The quilt has since disappeared from my eyesight. I don't know where it is. At one time I tried to have somebody come and bring it here, but she died. Her husband I had contact with died as well. And maybe some of you guys would like to go and find out where it may be now. It would be quite interesting. Newton Robinson, as viewed here. Now, in order to get information, she hung around in the area and came across information that Doug Riley was making a model of Newton Robinson. He took cereal boxes and made them into little houses. And later on I just made pictures so that it's easier then to bring the display. The display he actually made is a box about that size. Well, originally it was a piece of paper and the houses placed in it. Sarah Riley, who was a founding member of this historical society, encouraged her son at the time, a teenager, to do those things, so he made them. He painted them, laid them out on a piece of paper, and at one time the whole thing was in a table, maybe in here or at the Riley's place, and people from the area here, many of whom are not around here, the Ellis, Bird Row, Houghton, Chandler. Is Marvin, who's coming to the next meeting?
Marvin will be coming in May.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
He will know more about Newton Robinson. But all those people were sitting around and were talking about looking at it and say, okay, that's the road that goes down there, and this was this and this and that. And nobody recorded that stuff. But I have here something that was dated September 1896, and it talks about Newton Robinson. At the time, Newton Robinson had already been named, so since 1851, if I'm correct. He had other names before. And in 1841, there were only 4 log cabins. That is a store, a church, a school, a house, and a hotel. The store stood on the southwest corner of the crossroad. The church, which was built by the Methodist denomination, and then there was a tailor shop now, where the tailor shop now stands. And I read through this, and I think it's sort of like if you read through instructions or not, telling you how a certain chess game was done. This figure was here, there, and where that one was, the other one went in over there, and then you went from F5. Here we have, for instance, this. There was a planing factory which stood on the property now occupied by Mr. Nixon. Do you know where Mr. Nixon is? Okay, that's 1896. Go find out. Then the factory was afterwards moved to the present location beside the sawmill. Probably down there someplace. The Orange Hall was built in 1857. That's the Orange Hall. On the Okay, it was afterwards, okay, back again. The Orange Hall was built in 1857 on the east side of the South Hill. That's probably down the hill and up the other side. And was afterwards removed to the present position west of the church. Okay, it's still west. Is it west of the church?
No, it's east.
Okay. Those things have been moved around here. Now, So, back to this quilt again. Dear Douglas, that's the boy who made it. Several years ago, my wife and I were researching the layout and design of the homes, church and so on, of Newton Robinson. So they came up here to find out how the town looked, and perhaps they were a little bit confused because of the chessboard movement. But they looked at his model, which at the time was not in a case, but just on a plain piece of plywood flat. And from that, then the lady made this. Also, the model was then used as a competition, Simcoe County Historical Exhibition, and Dr. Riley got the certificate as grand prize winner. He was one of the lower grades, there were higher grades, and he also got the one for the fifth grade model. So he got 2 prizes for it. And you may ask, why the heck do I have those are the original. Where is Riley Doug living now?
Lake Ontario.
Somewhere in Lake Ontario, further down, and he is pushing 60. Yeah. Well, the model went on a 3D styrofoam base with the creek at the hill and so on, and that's where I got involved. So one day he gave me the stuff and said, "You keep it, you did half the work." I was the technical advisor. Now, also Newton Robinson, I don't know whether I can get up here. I used to be younger. The church next door had this. I don't know whether I showed this before. It has names on it. Many of you would remember, would recognize the names. It was all a member of the church, and as you know, the church is now an empty building, and things have moved out of the church, and I ended up with this. Sarah Riley, Doug's mother, was probably instrumental to have it done. I have all the names stitched in, and I'm sure Mark, the fellow that comes here, you mentioned his name.
Oh, Marv Chapman.
Yeah, I think his name is on here as well.
Okay.
So, Sarah Riley safe kept the things so it wouldn't get lost, and finally she gave it to me and said, "Take care of it." And I suppose I'm the, well, I could say the legal owner, but I think it should go someplace where it is going to be more exposed than sitting somewhere in my house. But that may take a while. Who knows? Maybe one day we have a museum. Or we have it in the museum on the Boyne. I don't know whether it could be there for just a display for a while.
Franz, you were mentioning you were talking about the church and the names of the people. When those people, some of you may have been at the last service in 2014 in January, and when they read out the names of the people, the families, many of them had their descendants at the church, including ours, and I think Katie was the youngest member. But it was kind of interesting that there were still so many people in the area, from the same families.
Yeah, I will leave this up here. Perhaps you want to look at and recognize a few names. I will also leave those things here. But if you would like to see the actual model, it is in the Bradford Library, hidden away, upstairs in the history room. The library has had new people in there, and every so often we have to try to say, okay, there's a history room, can we make some of the stuff visible? And while the model had been in the museum in Barry, in Midhurst, it had been in Aurelia, it is now quietly sitting on a stand. It could be outside it. We would put even a cover over it so that if it is there, people can put their fingers in it, and I restored it a little bit. And I was talking to David, the new guy in Di Giovanni, and maybe he can have it more central. The cover I put on was to make it so that it could be there without the kids going to try to pick up the...
Peter,
Anyway,
Ellis, you had that, you brought that to the hall once, didn't you?
You did.
We went to the
Yeah.
library to
Who's
see it
here?
once.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
But it was sitting right here.
Yeah. It was also for several years under a cover somewhere, the Ryan's house. I know
Okay.
exactly
We
where.
gave them a staircase.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I would like to see it occasionally exposed.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people could, it's quite nice if you are there and you go down at the level so you can see down the road, you think you're coming down between.
So where,
It's not in the local history room anymore?
It is in the local history room, but in the office behind.
Yes, but you can't get in there.
You would have to,
You have to make an
if you
appointment.
talk nicely, and they know you,
Yeah.
but I would like to see it further out.
so
Or
Franz,
at least, yes.
Franz, where did Doug get the information for his model? Is it what, the document that you were reading?
That is one of them.
Where else did he go? Did he go to land?
Also, when he was doing it, that was about 1980
Yeah,
or so. There were a lot of people around that would know.
okay.
He had contact with, I mentioned a few names, Houghton, Chandler's, Rowe was
So he consulted
there
with
as
them?
well, and so on.
And the
So,
mother was a teacher too.
Okay,
She taught her.
okay.
Perhaps we could fundraise to construct a plexiglass
It's
cover
done.
for it.
Yeah,
We
I made one.
It's
Oh, you
done.
made one?
Yes, it is. It could actually be out there, people couldn't touch it. It's a wooden box. It has 4 legs. I think the legs are attached to a base. I think I made that. And then it sits on it. The box itself was made by Dr. Riley's grandfather, who had a farming accident and therefore only one hand to work with, and the stump. But he made the box where it went into.
So it could be out because it doesn't.
It is. It is made to be displayed.
Yeah.
It could be standing there. Yeah. Well, I'll leave them open here.
Good job,
Okay.
Franz, thanks.